So we're back for episode 2 of Is That a Man? And last time when we talked, we were talking about Is That a Man? Where did the concept come from? And one of the things that we said is a lot of times men can think that something went on in other households, whether it's two-parent households, single-parent households, that necessarily didn't happen. And then we also talked about with 70% of African-American men, brown men, growing up with no fathers, that sometimes we are left to our own to figure it out. And how long does it take for men to figure it out? Is it when they hit puberty? Is it when they go to college? Or when they start the workforce? Is it when they get married? Or when they become a father? And so what we decided is we're going to get together and just talk about we don't think that we can come up with one clear definition of what a man is, but we think that we can throw around some ideas and just kind of help some people out there. Got so much feedback from the first episode. Hey, that was me. This was me. Oh, I can relate. I'm still trying to figure it out. So we have a wide variety of men who come from different households and different backgrounds. And so we're going to share with you today. And just with me, I was talking about, we would have some conversations before the camera started rolling. Just my background, grew up in a two-parent household. My mother and father got married when my mother was 18, my daddy was 23. And my wife hates me telling this story. You know, we had this brown convertible. And my dad was 23 years old. You know, people say, how do you know a whole lot of songs coming up? My mom was 23, so she was still listening to 18, so she was still listening to what 18-year-olds were, and so it's almost like a scene from Menace to Society or something. And I remember we had one car and we dropped my dad off, dropped him off at Lenny's up on the block where they played pool, played some cards. And I remember my daddy coming out, and he used to never smoke, so I'm not sure what he was doing. But he had a cigarette behind his head, and he had this shirt on, and it was buttoned down here. You see his little chest hairs, and he had a little chain with a shark tooth on, and he came to the car, and he said, hey, you good? We're like, we good, Dad? He pulled some money out and gave it to us. So I said, oh, man, I had a Menace Society experience. But I grew up in a two-parent household. My mother and father have been married for 48 years. And just kind of like the dialogue we were having before the camera started rolling, you know, my mother is the tough one and my dad is the hard worker. My mother is like, hey, you better not come in this house and no see. Hey, you better make them free throws. Hey, go outside and practice your shot. And my dad was a hard worker. And when I say he's a hard worker, you know, he was home every night, but my dad did some things in the house that you would consider is what a woman's supposed to do. My dad got up every morning and cooked breakfast. My daddy cooked Sunday meals. During our spring break, we were with my father. In the summertime, we were with my father. After school, we were with my father at work. And so a lot of times you can think, oh, that's a woman's role. You know, your dad is supposed to be throwing the ball. He's supposed to be doing this, and he's supposed to be doing that. And you're supposed to be with your mom during those seasons. And so I think one of the things they did is they made it work. They knew their strengths, they knew what they could do, and they kind of made it work. And so we're going to talk today, and people kind of share what's your experience. And then one of the things I said also, I talked about two young men who came to a time when they realized an event that my dad is not in the household. And so Rakeem, was there ever, I guess Oprah would call it an aha moment that you realized, look, I'm growing up in a single parent household? Did you have an experience like that?
Yes, that experience was probably around football season.
Okay.
I played Pop Warner, so I would watch all my friends, their dads and their moms. My mom had to work. She worked 2 jobs. She was a social worker, and then she worked at a in-house facility for young moms that were like 16 and under. So really during that time period where my head football coach, Coach Rob, he had his sons playing, and I would see, like, his son was my same age. He was heavier than me, but he was playing on B team at a young age. So I'm like, man, he's playing on B team. They winning championships. They doing all this different stuff, and it was just that little time. You may see him getting in the car. I'm walking home by myself with everybody else. So at times like that, it was very hard. But I mean, later on down the road, my mom, you know, she met someone else, and he pretty much raised me. So I got to see what a man was, but more so, I say I learned all the wrong things to do, and it made me say, you know, that's what I'm gonna do differently. I don't want to be like that, so that's what I'm gonna do.
Right.
But that was that aha moment, going home from football practice, seeing that, it's like every day, just eating like, dang, man. You know I'm nice, man. Right? that was it.
Now, JD, you know, the thing about it is I had the privilege of seeing you. You know, I came back from college and everybody was talking about this kid back in town, this kid, Jason Davis. Oh man, you ought to see Liz and Ken Davis' son. He went in AAU state titles and all this stuff. And I walked in the church, and I saw him as this long kid with long arms, long legs, looks just like his boys do now. And I coached him in high school, great athlete, big, 6'3", lefty, put him at the point guard position. So was Ken Davis out back with you, throwing the back? Because that's what happens in two-parent households with a father.
So with my dad, he was a baseball player.
Okay.
Right? So he didn't play football, didn't play basketball. He was a baseball player. So growing up, it was in Chapel Hill, in Parks and Rec. It was you played. I didn't play football until 8th grade. So for me growing up, it was baseball and basketball, right? And I had goggles back in the day, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's Horace Grant." So I was like, "All right, cool." Didn't really have a jump shot, but I could rebound. Then, as to your point, as I got older, it was like, "Oh, I can do more things," and I would do stuff. But the only time that my dad would go out with me is when I was young. And he would, "All right, let's go play some, let's go toss the ball." And we would go out in the street, toss a ball, and then once I got to a point, he was like, "Okay, yeah, that one stung a little bit." Then he backed off.
You set him down.
Yeah, he backed off. He's like, "Oh yeah, okay, all right." But then, and that's kind of when I stopped playing baseball, because like again, we talked about it earlier, but like I was up there to play, and this dude, and again, his name was Ross. He threw that ball, and it came right here. At that point, I was like, "Yeah, this ain't for me. This is not for me." But yeah, he was never really a basketball player or a football player. That's what.
So where? Okay, I get it. He wasn't a basketball player and a football player, but because I know you personally, you played varsity 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade in high school, and you went to play college football. So where did you learn that from?
I saw my dad, and it may not be in a sports level, but I saw him. He's an old school cat who sold things on the side, right?
Okay.
He worked for the city of Chapel Hill, but then was also a salesperson of everything else. He sold rainbow vacuums, right?
Rainbow vacuum.
And I remember seeing that, and I remember seeing like, he would come home from work, and at that point he would come in real fast, and at that time he was a smoker, so he'd come in, smoke one real fast, and he'll eat some dinner, and he would right back out the house. And I didn't dawn on me. I just thought that was normal. But once we got older, and as I started to mature in my sports deal, I tied those two together. So I saw the drive that he had in what he was doing for our family, and I put that towards my sports.
Yeah, that's cool.
Right. So it may have not necessarily been him out there playing with me, but he gave me that example of that drive, that push to do what was passionate for me. That and he still does it today. Like today, you can't tell him that he can't sell you something, right? If he comes to the house and I'm like, don't sell that stuff to him. don't do it. Cause it'll be different people, right? And he'll go in and be like, "So, you ever think about this?" And I can stop him, like, no, don't do that. But that's where I think I got a lot of that from, was just from watching him, move in that way. And I just followed suit, but I moved in my own way when it came to sports.
Yeah. Now, Marcus, I know with you, I see you with the boys and your daughter, and you're a lacrosse coach, lacrosse trainer, football coach, football trainer, dad blocker for my niece Sydney. So what you do with them probably parallels how you grew up, because you played college football. So it had a parallel. Where did you get that from?
Absolutely not. So, I grew up in a single parent household. My mom from birth to 9th grade, well, the summer of my 8th grade year going into 9th grade, I lived with my mother. She came to a point where I had 2 older brothers, and she got to the point where in the inner city, it got to be too much for her. She understood as a woman, and I thank God for her that she understood that she couldn't raise a man.
Right.
So me and my 2 older brothers went to go live with my father.
Got trade.
So, right. So while living with my father, growing up, we all played sports. And he was just a man's man, and he was a hard dude.
Now, give me the definition of a man's man.
So
I think of Bill Cowher with a strong chin.
This is a definition of
a dude.
All right, so like, and for it has permeated down to me and to my boys, and so my dad had he was adverse to lotion, right? So and so
he wasn't Metro.
No.
You wasn't catching the Metro.
No.
I saw this special. My wife had me looking at this special this morning. This show, talk show. I don't know what we're looking at, and they were saying that today women prefer men. Like the new thing that's going is fingernail polish.
For guys?
For guys.
No, get the ghost shot.
I'm single.
That's why you need the ghost shot.
See stuff like that. So would not happen. And so to your point, my father was a provider. He was an entrepreneur. He was just a really hard worker. So I never knew my father to have a job. But if I call him any time of the day, he's there because he had that ability. But coming to my sporting events, no. Throwing the ball around in the yard, never.
But you played college football.
I did. And you know why I played college football? Because he said, and he knew each one of his children. And he knew what motivated me.
Right.
When you tell me I can't do something. Mm-hmm. When he tells me I can't do something, I'm gonna move heaven and hell to make that happen.
So let me ask you this though. So I see how involved you are with your boys.
Right.
And Sydney, did you use the same concepts? Because we have this saying, we have cul-de-sac kids.
Right.
What's the definition of a cul-de-sac kid? You know, I thought today I was gonna tell my son, go clean the bathtub out. I was like, he don't know how to clean a bathtub. He in his 6th grade. Or take the trash out. And he tried. And sometimes I'm thinking they are putting on so they don't have to. Because if they know if I look out and the trash can, I tell them, just stop. I'll do it myself. So what did you or did you not roll over to the concepts from your dad to your children? Because I see you with your kids, you're very, very hands-on.
See, and you know, I cannot hold anything against my dad because he did the best with what he knew. His upbringing, he wasn't shown love. Mm-hmm. He wasn't shown love. He was shown hard work and those things. And so he translated love with material things.
Right.
So he would buy stuff. I mean, my older 2 brothers, my oldest brother bought him a brand new car for his senior year. My middle brother bought him a Cadillac Seville. This was back in 86. Bought him a Cadillac Seville and had put a 500-watt Yamaha speaker system in his Cadillac.
He had some knock there. He was like, yes. He was playing DJ Magic Mike.
So with that, and my older 2 brothers, my older brother tore his car up, my other brother tore his car up, and so when I came about, he kind of learned from his ways, and there was a 1981 Buick Skylark in our yard because my dad had all kinds of stuff, and it wasn't running, and I was just like, so where's my car coming? He tells me, hey, you make that work. So I had to go. I had a job. I bought new tires, got it running, got it registered. This is the thing. When it was to the point where when I got the car ready, he asked me, can you drive? I said, yeah, I could drive. Mind you, he has never taken me out driving. He's never, we getting ready to go take my driver's test. He throws me the keys and say, all right, let's go. So I drive him down to the driving license place. He said, yeah, you'll pass with that. So I went and got my license.
So, like, you know, one of the things that we can talk about that all of us kind of had the same type of story, being tough. And, you know, like I say now, we have cul-de-sac kids and stuff that our parents did with us. You know, we it's not something that we could do. It's just, you probably go to jail. It wasn't abuse, but, you know, being tough. And me and Thomas, you know, had a whole lot of conversations. He got married a couple of Decembers ago, and he came into a situation where his wife already has children, and just talking about making kids tough, making boys tough. And he was like, well, P&A, man, my uncles made me tough. Now, he comes from some all his uncles. If you're not 6'5", you're not any relation to them. His mama is like 6 feet, 6'1". They some big people. So, you know, we had that conversation about being tough, and we're saying that a lot of our dads made us tough. Do you think that's something that men should do, make them tough? Or
I definitely think it's something that men should do to make them tough. You know, get them. Like I like to use the term well-rounded. You know, knowing and understanding the foundation of life and the structure of life, and then your role as a man, but also not being blind to the reality that although I'm teaching you this way, everybody wasn't brought up this way.
right?
So you gotta know, as I like to say, you gotta know how people walk outside in the street, and then you also have to know how people walk that come from a home with some structure, and that come from a father that understands life, that could teach you to prepare you for what the world's gonna throw at you. Because I could teach, you know, what the world's gonna throw, but I can't stop the world from throwing it at me. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I always felt like I gotta teach them to be tough. Like, look, you walk by me, I'm gonna push you down. I'm gonna push you in the chest.
Oh, yeah. Thomas had a conversation. He said, hey, P-Nate, man. He said, I'm about to get married. She don't like the way I treat her son. I said, man, what you doing? You a great guy. You great around my kid. You know, I just might punch him in the chest. I said, Thomas, why you punching him? He said, to make him tough.
That's all I knew. That's all I knew. Like he said, I had big uncles, so I was like, look.
His uncle was big.
And my cousin's big. My cousin, he was gonna put me in the figure 4 laying life until I started crying. That was just
Or tap out.
Yeah. Or he gonna put me in a submission hold, tickle me until I feel myself. I better not. You can't tap out, and I couldn't tell when my mama got there. So it was like, I just gotta deal with it. I gotta figure out how to get out of it. So it's like, look, either I'm gonna get tougher or I'm gonna keep crying. That's one of the two. And I was like, I ain't gonna be no crybaby, so I just gotta get tough. And that's why. That was.
So how did you make that transition now where you and your wife have a blended household and there's a boy in the house? Because Thomas, look, I looked on social media one day. Thomas done went and bought a football ladder. Right. We got some
He doing drills in the street.
Everything. I had to, you know, just come to reality that, all right, I might have to check this a different way. Have a little bit of compassion, you know, be a little bit.
Not a lot of compassion, a little bit.
Not a lot. Have a little bit of compassion, you know what I'm saying? But look, hey, you gotta push through. That's just me. But
now, how old is he, Thomas?
He's 11. Oh yeah, he's 11.
But he been
doing this for he's 11 now.
He's like 8 then. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, yo, you gotta push through.
Hey, you gotta get up, man.
Keep your chin up.
Man, you don't cry here. I tell him don't cry here, man. You gotta get up.
Doing push-ups and stuff.
Push-ups. And then, about 10 minutes later, I go back and tell you, look, man, I love you. I love you. I won't trying to be hard on you, but you gotta push. You gotta push.
Yeah.
I never let them forget that at the end of the day, regardless of what's going on, know that I'm doing it out of love.
Right.
I ain't doing it to hurt you, to pick on you. I'm not against you. I'm here to help bring you up.
Do you think after? Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that's when it's positive. I feel like that's when they actually gonna stand up and get stronger. Because any other way, you could just be beating them, hitting them up, and then what that do to their self-esteem or what their perspective, outlook on life starts to change.
Yeah.
So when you anytime I do that, like, look, come here, man. Let me holler at you, man. That's what I do. So just like that.
And to be honest, when I found out that that's what worked, is that it was a random day, and my wife, she was like, "Kamari, want to say something to you," and I was like, "What's up?" I just came in from work, and he was just like,
Thank you.
"I just want to thank you for always pushing me," and he even used the word persevere. He was like, what you mean persevere? But it felt so good just to hear, because I was just like, where does this come from? He was like, you never give up on me. You always keep pushing me. You teach me to be, to have courage and to be strong and to. I just really like that, and I really appreciate that, and I want you to know that I love you and that thank you for just being there for me and just always being willing to show me something. Even if it's hard, I get it, and I'll learn how to do it. If I don't learn how to do it, I'll never give up until I do it. Until I do learn how to do it.
That's what he said?
And that's what he said.
Wow.
You can ask Peachy.
You gave him instructions.
Seriously, I gave him. It
gave him
came
the
to me
game.
on a random day, and then that was just my confirmation. Okay.
Chris, what about you? How was it with you and your dad? Because you grew up in a 2-parent household.
2-parent household. My dad was a hard worker. I mean, every morning, 3 o'clock, he would go out to work, come back, pick me up from school for school at 7:30, take me to school every day. But one thing he didn't do, he wasn't a real touchy-feely person. I never remember sitting in my dad's lap, or I never remember him saying, "Chris, I love you," but I knew he loved me, but he just wasn't a verbal, huggy type person.
Yeah,
Chris, tell him what you were telling me about going fishing today.
Oh yeah, so growing up as a kid, my dad used to go deep sea fishing probably 2 or 3 times a year. So I always felt like he's never invited me to go, and so I always thought, man, I gotta make sure that I take my kids fishing because that's what good dads do. But then I realized, hey, everybody has things that they kind of give to their kids and the way they spend time with their kids. But I always thought he was kind of keeping me from my, growing up, because he never took me deep sea fishing. But I realized that there's other ways to show love, and he wasn't doing something wrong because he didn't take me fishing with him.
Right.
But he just showed love in a different way.
Now, before he went on to go be with the Lord,
Right.
he, y'all had a conversation, and what was that conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Marcus said this best, your parents, they do what they know to do. And he always said, I'm going to look out for you. I'm going to leave you land. I'm going to leave you a house. I'm going to leave you my insurance policy. And it's going to be just to you, son. I mean, so he was always, I felt like, planning and looking out, even though he wasn't one of those dads who was saying, I love you, son. I love you, son. But he was always looking out. So I always knew that he cared. I always knew that he loved me.
Yeah. What were you saying, Big Time?
No, I was just I echo that sentiment because that's amazing as a leader, as your dad sound like, he looked far. So he was looking beyond himself at the time when he had you, and as a leader, he's looking for more. He wanted more for you and your kids and your kids' kids. Yep. So as a leader, as a father, to me, that's truly what a man is supposed to be.
Yeah, a man's man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going through something right now just because, and it's not bad. My dad is retired. Me and Jason had these conversations all the time. And my dad is retired, and he turned 70 the other day. And he is he's calling me 5 times a day. Nathan, what's up, Daddy? I saw somebody from your church. And then, so his thing is, he doesn't say bye. And I come back. I said, hey,
What happened?
I said, hey, Daddy, I'm sorry the call dropped. He said, no, I was through talking.
I'm good. Hey, I ain't got nothing
I
else to
said,
say.
man, you can't just hang up on people. But he's coming by and he's checking light bulbs and trying to fix the garage. And I'm sitting in Jason's picture, like, what is he doing? I can fix that doorbell tomorrow.
Right.
And I'm just like, who are you? You know, he's 70, but he wasn't, like I said, and I don't look back and think, oh, I didn't get love or anything like that. But he's just a different person. I remember one day I went into him and said, hey, Daddy, it's my birthday. He was looking at the football game. And he said, okay. And I said, yeah, today's my birthday. He said, am I your father? I said, yes, sir.
I know.
So I had you. I said, yeah. He said, I know it's your birthday. But he never said, happy birthday, son, and just wasn't gonna get it. And we as close to this day as ever. He's a video. How many people in here that your dad has ever told you he loved you or gave you a hug?
The first time that I could recall, he may have done it when I was a baby or a kid, was when I graduated from college.
You graduated college. What about you, Thomas?
I can't recall. My vision, my memory of my dad is a blur. So
Right.
yeah.
What about you, Chris?
My dad was always there at every game in middle school. Always picking me up for school in high school after every meeting. But I can't remember. I know people used to come to me and say, your dad's so proud of you. Your dad loves you. But I don't remember him ever saying it.
What about you, JD?
It's the same thing. We caught it all the time in Chapel Hill. It was like, oh man, your dad talks about you all the time. But it was probably when my oldest Jay was born.
The oldest.
When my first son was born, is when that's when I was like that, because I didn't hear it. It was weird. I heard it in college from a teammate after we just got finished scrapping. Like we literally got into it in practice, and at the end he was like, "Love you, dog." Love you. I was confused.
What about you, King?
For me, it probably was a few years ago, like 3 years, like really like 3 years ago.
How old are you?
28.
Was that the first time you ever heard a man tell you he loves you?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. With the I love you, but any other thing, I got your back, I'll kill somebody too.
So what we're gonna do is for our next episode, this was great. Our next episode we're gonna talk about physical touch from a man and a man saying I love you, and how do we show emotion or show that we love our boys and people we're mentoring and people that we're, you know, one of the things I like now is that as I turn 46 and Keem and my oldest boy, I become an OG. You know, one of the things that people try to do is everybody sometimes try to parent somebody, but one of the terms that just become like a dope term now is to be somebody's uncle. Yeah, who that? Oh, that's my uncle. That's uncle right there. You know, that's your dad. Nah, is your dad like thinking? Nah, that's uncle. The greatest uncle ever just passed. Mayweather's uncle, Roger. So that's what we're gonna talk about in the next episode. Y'all ready to get at it?
Let's go.
All right.